Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Holy shit, Craig.
You hear that?
I do.
All right, this is Jeff's first time hearing the...
Hell yeah.
So
we have theme music.
Hey, Craig.
I love that song.
We don't care. We don't care.
I love it. So I'm just playing it. Like Jeff will, in future episodes, Jeff will actually put this into the podcast. So I'm just playing it.
I don't know, man. I think it's kind of hilarious doing it this way.
I don't like. So this was.
That is so fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
Craig,
It's
we
got
have
the fade
theme
out.
music.
I know, man. It's
We're
not
like
just
we're
my
like
off-key singing.
We're like a real podcast. 114 episodes in.
So I have to say, big thank you to listener Randy England.
Yeah.
Who you can follow on Instagram at Randy England Music.
Yeah.
He's an actual real musician who listens to the podcast, and he has made us a bunch. Like he didn't just make us that. He made us
bumpers.
Bumpers.
Like,
he made a shorter podcast song version. It's great. Thank you, Randy.
So
and
awesome.
I love it, dude. Like it's funny. It's kind of catchy. It's funky. I like it. We're gonna keep it. Doesn't mean, hey, some of y'all, if you had some in mind, you still want to send them in. Send them in. We'll use them all. It doesn't matter. But for now, thank you, Randy England. Official podcast theme. Podcast versus everyone.
Like, dude, it's like we have someone who likes the show enough to take time out of his actual real minutes out of his actual real life to make a song for us. Like
use his actual real talent.
Yeah, I mean my heart is like beating out of my chest right now, Craig. I'm serious. I'm serious.
I know.
I'm not even kidding.
So
I think
excited.
that's so cool.
I can't remember what day. Like, I think he sent him on Saturday, but it was like during the game, like right before the game, during the game. I hadn't looked at the podcast versus everyone email, but I checked it on Saturday night, and I was just like hanging out with my partner Amanda, and I'm just like, oh, someone sent us music. I told her this guy he messaged me on Instagram, Randy, and he said he's gonna make these songs, and he's like an actual musician and stuff. Like that's cool. And like, awesome. And so I played them, and she's like, "Oh, these are good. This is funky. I like it, man. It sounds like a podcast theme." And I all I asked is like, you got to put "We Don't Care" in there, and that's in there. I like the little kind of the "Hey Jeff, hey Craig" thing. Awesome. That's really good. Thank you, Randy. That's super fun.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I'll play it on the way out too. I'll play it coming. We're gonna do it at janky this first time because Jeff hasn't downloaded any of them yet or anything. But I'll play them coming in and out of the breaks and stuff. And I'll use all the bumpers and stuff you gave us. It's over the top, man. I'll figure out a way to thank you other than the shout out here. But I will say, yeah. Let me make sure I got his Instagram handle exactly right. He is a Coug, obviously. It's at Randy England Music, exactly as you would think it's spelled, RANDY. So yeah, thanks, Randy. All the way down from Nashville. That's where I used to live there too. So that also makes me happy.
Well, everybody knows that all the real musicians live in Nashville. So.
Oh yeah, there's hella good music in Nashville, like outside of like the pop country and stuff.
No doubt,
it's a great spot. I wish I had more money to go to shows when I lived there. All the good shows weren't free. There was very good musicians that would play free shows like like downtown, but they were playing like covers. But if you want to see the musicians play their original music, like you had to pay. And I was like super, super broke when I lived in Nashville working at Target. So we didn't get to go out to do that much. But yeah, again, thank you, Randy. This is Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers. With me is Jeff Nusser, as always.
Yeah.
Episode number 114. I wish it was 124 or 24 or something like that, or 40 or 72 or 32 or something, or you know, whatever. 35.
Yeah, there's a 4 in there at least. At least we
89. I don't know. There's a lot of good ones. Yeah. So episode 114, which is 24 more than 90. So you know, whatever.
There we go.
But man, what a weekend! What
Oh
a weekend for the men's hoops team.
Yeah.
I told you, I threw this out on Twitter and stuff. We got to savor these weekend sweeps, at least for now. Hopefully they're not something to like savor in the future, but this is only the 6th time this has happened since 2009. And there has not been more than one in any season since 2009. So we haven't had a lot of weekend sweeps lately. Even Tony Bennett's teams had 3, 2, and 2, so they weren't always happening. They just happen a little more frequently. But
Yeah.
It feels great to, you know, you beat the team you're supposed to, and then you beat the team that you weren't supposed to. So like that's, you know, when you're where the Cougs are to get a weekend sweep, that's what you got to do. Of course, against Oregon, they beat the team. The Oregon schools, they beat the team they weren't supposed to, and they went the other way around. But man, so let's start with the Cal game. Kind of Noah Williams coming out party. I mean, what an absolute thrashing of a Pac-12 opponent, which is another thing that this program has not done very often. It was just incredible, man, to see. And we knew coming in the weekend that we would not have Isaac Bonton. We saw that hurt against UW, especially with the turnovers. They really looked lost for the first half, but man, they figured it out. They figured out what they were doing right away against Cal, and it was super fun to watch.
Yeah, big blowouts are not very common for us. Obviously, I think that it was like the biggest one since like 1993. I think is what it said.
Yeah.
Biggest conference win since 1993. 1993 even predates my time as a Coug, which you know is kind of funny. And so yeah, we don't get to see these things very often. And Cal looked, you know, completely hapless, but you know a lot of that was us. I mean, I think you know I think that some guys took the loss to Washington a little bit personally. You know, I mean, I think they felt like they're a better team than Washington, and I think that's pretty clear that they're a better team than Washington. You know, and they lost, you know, because of one guy, you know, really kind of going crazy, uncharacteristically, at least at that kind of volume. And then, you know, frankly, I mean, you know, we talked about this. Noah didn't have the greatest game, right? Like, you know, he got beat on that last drive by Sahonis pretty badly, right? Just a little crossover and easy little floater. You know, that's the kind of thing that apparently, you know, the Jordan meme, right? And I took that personally, you know, like I think Noah took that personally because he came out and, you know, just decided that he was going to be the man. And, you know, that was one of the things that I wrote about today. One of the many things that I wrote about today, cause I was feeling good, after beating Stanford, but, you know, just that it's not as normal as I think casual fans think that a guy is like, give me the damn ball and I'm taking over. That's not as common, I think, as fans think. I think fans, you know, have this thing where they're like, well, everybody wants to take all the shots. And it's like, you know, maybe when you were in, you know, 3rd grade on the playground, but when you're talking, you know, high level college hoops and there's a lot riding on, you know, what players do and how they perform. And, you know, it's, and then also, you know, the farther you get up the ladder in terms of, competition, the more sort of keenly aware you become, of your limitations and the things that maybe you don't do as well. There are not a lot of guys lining up to take 20 shots. Like that is just not a thing that guys are knocking themselves over to try and go do. And part of the reason why Isaac Bonton has taken so many shots is because he's willing to, and he believes in himself, and he's like, I'll go do it. Not many players do that, and Noah didn't do that against Washington either. Everybody just kind of stood around and looked at each other, and that's what usually happens when a go-to guy goes out, and so he clearly decided he had enough of that, and against Cal came out and asserted himself, and was aggressive shooting threes and aggressive attacking the basket. And I mean, his best play of the game was like this, slicing drive coming from left to right where he sort of curled. And man, I think he took 2 steps from the free throw line and just blew past about 3 guys, and then just did this little like, I don't know how to describe it, but kind of dipsy do, windmill kind of layup thing as he was going in. And, when it went in and he got the and one, he just shrugged his shoulders like the Jordan game, right? Like he just palms up, like they can't stop me. It was really great. So, to beat the tar out of Cal, felt real good because anytime you are playing one of those teams that you feel like you're better than, you really want to beat them and you want to separate yourself a little bit, and so
especially they felt more vulnerable because Bonton was out. So you're like, man, if we lose to UW and Cal because Bonton got injured, a week ago, this would just be frustrating. Yeah.
When we recorded last week, we were like, we were not feeling like we're certainly not feeling good about Stanford, and then we were, not feeling real great about Cal. I think we both characterized it as a toss up at that point. Apparently not a toss up, right? Like we don't know anything. But it's one of the great, it's just sports in general surprise you, but college sports in particular, guys do things and, and they step up and they mature and it's one of the really cool things about watching college sports is watching guys, and girls develop just kind of right in front of your eyes, and surprise you with something that, and sometimes they surprise their coaches, right? I mean, Kyle Smith talked about, I didn't know he had this in him. Like they surprise their coaches too. It's one of the cool things I think that we love about college athletics, and Noah definitely pulled that off, starting with that game against Cal.
Yeah. And what was really remarkable, especially so people, think about Bonton taking this like high volume of shots using a high number of possessions. Well, Noah went to territory that Bonton has never even touched. Like he had a 41% usage. Yep. So that's 40 when he was on the floor. 41% of WSU possessions ended in him taking a shot, taking a free throw, or turning the ball over. And he only had 2 turnovers. So it's just an absurdly high usage. And then he was a 145 offensive rating, just incredibly efficient at that usage. At that point, you're just like, dude, take as many shots as you want. Like he was 12 of 20, 4 of 6 from 3, 4 or 5 from the free throw line. Just unbelievably efficient. Had 3 steals.
Almost a triple-double.
Almost a triple-double. Yep. And he might have been able to get it if they play the rest of the game. But, it helps, too, when you're trying to get those assists. And Yakumovsky had 9 assists in this one. He had 9 assists in the next one, too. But, it helps when guys are making shots, right? And everyone was making shots. Everyone. I think even, the one guy that Kuntz was only, 2 of 4. And he's the one that's been tearing it up. But you got... Yakumovsky was finally hitting threes. Miles Warren hit a couple threes. DJ Rodman hit a couple threes. Fa was finishing down low. Really, the only guys that had kind of not great days, Deshaun didn't have a great game. He didn't play very much. And it was just it was wild just to see them. Obviously, they went small this weekend with Kuntz starting. Instead of Jackson, and then obviously maybe a little bigger on the guards because Yakumovsky is essentially playing a point forward, And I wanted to talk about that because we're gonna talk more about Noah, obviously. But one thing we saw kind of we always thought that he had this in him. Like when you watch his highlights when he was in Europe and a younger kid and stuff, he looked like the point forward type.
Yep.
And they really let him be, particularly in the half court, the ball handler. And again, it helps when guys are making shots, but he's also finding guys, making passes, not turning the ball over, not 9 assists, not a single turnover, and he was handling the ball a lot. Like his possession percentage was pretty high, 22 for him, and to only not turn it over at all, it was awesome. And to finally find his stroke again from deep, he still struggles to finish down low. That's something I'm not expecting to improve this year.
Yeah,
and
that
hopefully
has
he improves
to be.
on it next year.
It has to be mental though. Like,
Yeah,
he's
right.
he's
'Cause
a
he's
good
big and
size. He's strong. Like, he can get off the floor. Like, there's really no reason why he should be as poor finishing around the basket as he is. So, I have a lot of hope for that.
Yeah, for sure. But he was just I love how they used him. We saw them going to this in last weekend as well, especially against UCLA, and they're kind of forced into it again last weekend because of foul trouble and stuff, but it actually was working well. Like, it worked pretty well against USC and worked well against UW to go smaller, and it helps that Jazz has been playing so well.
Yep.
And he was Smith talked about how he was injured earlier in the season. It seems that he's better now because he looks just more energetic, more athletic, more kind of braver. I mean, he wasn't taking, this wasn't a game when he taking many shots, but he's and he really didn't fill up the stats in this one. But he's playing good defense, which is what's always was kind of his Achilles heel. And when he's not hitting threes, and then he's also not playing good defense, and he just couldn't be on the floor. But obviously injuries often affect guys on defense more than anything because it's so much reactionary, and you got to be quick. And so that was nice. We really we really thought that we'd need a lot more from Bamba, but he didn't really do much. But I don't know, he was just filling the body, and Cal was struggling to score, so you got to think Bamba up top had something to do with that. So yeah, all around, Cal was 13 of 33 on twos. You love to see that.
Yes, you
do. They only had 7 offensive rebounds. Oh, it gets better than that later. They only grabbed 20% of their own misses, which is very low for them, low for anyone.
Yeah.
They actually did pretty poorly on the offensive glass too, or defensive glass too. We grabbed 37%.
Yep.
So we just dominated the glass, which you wrote about this week. I wanted to point out something about, I don't think you mentioned in your rebounding article. WSU currently ranks in the top 100 in both defensive rebounding percentage and offensive rebounding percentage.
Ooh, I did not mention that.
And that has never happened in the Ken Palm era.
Ooh.
They've not even close. They've never even been close.
That's a nugget.
They've been really, really good at defensive rebounding, especially
Yes.
under the Bennett's.
Yes.
But Ernie never was good at either side, even with Hawkinson. But they have never been top 100 in both, and they've risen to top 100 in both. So they're really attacking the glass on both ends. They're as you mentioned, they're a big team. You would hope they could rebound, and a lot of times rebounding is a mentality as much as anything. Especially once you're tall, if you just got to be aggressive. And so, like you said, it's Abagidi is the exceptional rebounder, and then everyone else is just kind of working at it. Everyone else is solid.
Yeah. And
so you have everyone can grab a rebound that's on the spot, especially when they're playing these huge lineups. Anyone can go grab a rebound. And you don't even see Noah grab very many because he doesn't need to.
No.
He's 6'5", he could go get in there and grab one, but he just doesn't need to.
I feel like so much of offensive rebounding is really just giving a team permission to go do it, just like letting them go, just turning them loose to go. So many coaches are, terrified of transition defense that, they refuse to let their team chase down offensive boards. They might let, one guy, like that's what the Bennetts do. They're like, okay, one guy close to the basket, feel free to go get an offensive rebound. Everybody else.
Like Jay Huff right now for Virginia is like
everybody else.
7-footer, just grab it.
You go back, which, I kind of get. I mean, if you're going to play defense to the level that Virginia does or we used to or whatever, like, okay, fine. I can kind of get that. But, so many other teams just do it. It seems sort of out of sheer terror more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Not that was the case under Ernie Kent. I think that was really just a talent issue mostly, because they were also getting beat in transition, and having, extremely short defensive possession times. But, at the same time, it's like, sometimes it's just a matter of like telling guys, no, go do it, like go get it. And that's what they're doing right now. I mean, I mentioned that I kind of had some overflow stats for my story that I couldn't really figure out a way to wedge in. So I threw them down in the comments, and, two of the guys who are, really sneaky good offensive rebounders are, DJ Rodman and Jazz Kuntz. Like those are two guys, they get their hands on a lot of balls, man. They get their hands on a lot of balls. They pop them around. And then, of course, F.A. ends up with a bunch in his hands. And, whenever Jackson or Vova are on the floor, a lot of balls just kind of fall into their hands because they're big guys. And they stand close to the basket, right? So, and maybe that was some of the issue too previously. But at any rate, it's just it's cool, man. It's like it's neat to be able to assert your will. And one of the things that I wrote about was, it can cover up a lot of other flaws. If you're not a great shooting team, and this is not a great shooting team, they're
no kidding.
They're better than they were last year when they were 330th last year in effective field goal percentage, but
with CJ Ellaby.
The big difference, so last year they were able to make up for a lot of that with not turning the ball over. Like they were one of the best teams in the country in turnover rate. Well, obviously that's not the case this year, which we've talked about.
One of the worst teams in
the worst teams in the country. But we've made up for it to some degree. The shooting's only improved marginally, but the offensive rebounding's improved to a great degree, and the free throw rate, the ability to get to the free throw line has improved to a great degree, and then they've, they're a good free throw shooting team now. It seems like forever ago that they were like considered a bad free throw shooting team. They are now what you would consider, fairly just average. They shoot 70.5% from the free throw line on the season. That's, about average, maybe like a tiny bit below average, but right in that area. You can make up for a lot by getting to the free throw line and, getting offensive rebounds. And by the way, that kind of one leads to the other a lot of times, right? You get an offensive rebound, you get a foul. But, they do that. And, that's one of the things I think that, impresses me so much about the coaching staff is they just sort of figure out ways to maximize what they've got. And, there's always sort of this debate, like identity, right? Like when you look at Tony Bennett, for example, that's an easy one. Clear fingerprint. When you look down his Ken Palm stats, now those of you who don't subscribe to Ken Palm, like when you look down year by year at the different stats, they're color coded, right? Like, and it's mostly red versus green, which is, red, bad, green, good. And what you see, or not necessarily bad, but low, right? So like, so like the offensive rebound is always just red, for them because they just don't even try. Okay. So that's fine. And there's like these fingerprint elements of it. But when you look at Smith, there's not really, there's some things, like 3-point attempts against them is one that that's definitely like a core value for him, over the years. But there's so many other things that are just sort of like dependent. The defense last year was really turnover dependent. because they didn't have big guys. Jeff Pollard was their center, right, at 6'8" or whatever he was. And then this year, nope, it's 2-point defense, right? Not generating a lot of turnovers, but they are, one of the best teams in the country in shooting defense because of their interior guys. So it's really impressive the way that they figure out how to maximize their guys to get, the best possible results. They're up to 35th now nationally in adjusted defensive efficiency, which is the highest since
it's just around what Clay's last.
Yeah,
team.
Clay's last year they were 39th. Yep, and that was a lot of Clay and D'Angelo Casto kind of leading that one. So yeah, it's just really cool. Yeah. Yep. Super cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's funny. We've talked about it, and actually let's talk about the Stanford game. Then we'll talk about more broad things. Coming in, you're just, when I kind of wrote my preview, I was like, they shot really well from 3 last time, and they still were like 0.85 or whatever points per possession against Stanford at Stanford or at whatever the Warriors
Santa Cruz
facility, Santa Cruz. So it was like what I said in the preview is like they're going to need to do more beyond the 3-point shooting, because if shooting like 45% from 3 doesn't even get you to 0.9 points per possession, then you're doing, and they were awful inside. I think they were like 10 of 30 or something like inside last time, but this time they were a little bit better finishing inside, and then they still shot the hell lights out, mostly Noah from 3, but a few other guys too. And then like you said, the offensive rebounding came around. They did just enough in that. It wasn't a huge offensive rebounding day, but they did just enough in that to make up for, going 14 to 35 on 2-pointers and turning the ball over 22 to 25% of the time. Like, they still got to 0.96, so their offense was better. And so they were able to make a few more 2s. They actually shot 3s poorer, but they shot more of them as a percentage of their shots, which, if a team as good as Stanford is inside defending, is not a bad strategy to hoist. Like, honestly, I know it's frustrating to watch at times, but yeah, I mean, it was really Yakumovsky and Noah were driving that. No one else really shot very well. FA made a very huge one, and we can talk about that one.
Yeah.
But obviously, free throws were big too in this one. Stanford shot them really poorly. WSU didn't. WSU got a few more attempts, not very many, but they made 9 more. So making your free throws, shooting 3s when the inside isn't working, getting offensive rebounds at a solid rate, 35% against a team like Stanford. There's not typically a very good defensive rebounding team, but they were able to kind of outperform what they usually allow. Just excellent. Because what I was thinking before, they would have to be near 1 point per possession to win this game. And
they were.
And they were. And that's kind of, and they probably were above it before overtime started. That there was some pretty weak scoring in the overtimes. Besides the last one, that might have brought them up. But
yeah, the last one was pretty. They went 9-0. No, they went 9-0.
So yeah, overtime. I mean, but we gotta talk again about Noah. Like, he absolutely kept them in this game at multiple times. It looked like in the first half it was getting away. They started really hot, 7-0 on ESPN News, and then they flipped over to ESPN2, and then immediately Stanford took over. And towards the end of the half, it looked like Stanford was going to run away with it. But it was frustrating because De Silva hadn't played since the 13-minute mark because he got a second foul. And they were still beating us. And it was like frustrating. Because if De Silva comes back, and when he did in the second half, he definitely had an impact even when he wasn't scoring, because we were paying so much attention to him. But you were just like, how can we keep up without De Silva? Like, if De Silva comes back, we can't keep up. But then Noah just went, fuck it. Like, he just hit a bunch of threes. Like, he went, he got that kind of like generous and won, but we were owed that one. I definitely want to rant about that. I wouldn't want to rant about it right now. Let's take a break. Right, take a little minute right here to rant. So, why was WSU owed a call right there, Jeff? Like, why do you think the refs called that foul on Michael O'Connell when he kind of didn't even touch Noah?
Yeah.
So why do you think they wanted to make that call at that time?
Oh my God! After the FA technical foul that wasn't, where it was
gosh.
Yeah, I mean, FA erases a shot, yells at DJ Rodman to go get the rebound, and then gets teed up because some ref thinks he's, talking shit. And all of a sudden, like, everybody's like, what happened? What happened? And then it comes out, oh, he went and apologized, but the T stands.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, the ref apologized for it, but you still are giving the technical foul.
It's
and by the way,
insane.
this was reporting from Theo Lawson, that got this info. And he's not he got it. Had to heard from someone on the floor, but it's nuts. One, why does the technical stand if you apologize for it?
Yeah.
Two,
It's insane.
we always talk about it, Jeff. We always talk about it. Refs are calling what they expect to happen instead of what actually happened.
Yep.
And he sees FA, who just I don't know. Does FA have a reputation for talking shit? I've never heard that.
Not that I know of.
And also, if you block a guy's shot the way he did, absolutely, you should be able to say, get that out of here, get that the fuck out of here, get that shit out of here, whatever you want, wag your finger like Dikembe Mutombo, whatever you want, dude. Come on, it's fun. It's basketball. A block shot is one of the most exciting plays. Especially casual fans are like, "Oh, big block shot! What? He's got to retire! What?" But it's all he was doing is yelling at DJ to grab the rebound.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he calls this expectation. He expects that FA was talking shit. He wasn't. He was just communicating to his teammate. And, they had the 200 fans in there. It was loud. He couldn't hear. Sorry. They couldn't hear. He got to yell.
Yeah.
It's fucking that. This is peak, Pac-12 ref buffoonery. What the hell is this? You called the technical and then apologized for it. But by the way, Stanford gets a free point because they made one of the free throws. Right. Out of it. Come the fuck on. You kidding me right now? This is such a joke. He has to have gotten reprimanded, I would hope, or something.
Do you think, do you really think? Because I don't. By the way, I don't know if you saw
By the way, in a game that went to overtime, Stanford was given a free point, and we can talk about some other points that were taken away later. But it's just...
I don't know if you saw the addendum to that, but Theo also tracked down that same ref has now called 4 technical fouls on Washington State this year. So,
just really doesn't like WSU's players, or Kyle Smith,
or Noah Williams, or whatever. I mean, he. So I'm looking at the games that he's done of ours.
By the way, I saw Neil Stover. Who works for Root and former WSU basketball manager, he tweeted that it's the same ref that called the technical on WSU in the 2009 Oregon game.
No.
Yeah.
No, can't. No way.
It is. It is.
Oh,
I'm so glad you didn't know that.
I didn't know that. He, by the way, he reffed the Apple Cup game in Seattle that Noah got double teed. I don't know if he called both of those, but
Noah wasn't saying enough. He had to.
That was the game where Noah got double teed. He reffed that game. Did Kyle Smith also get one in that game? I don't remember.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
So his name's Tony Padilla, and Neil tweeted at Neil Stover, "I'm still waiting for Tony Padilla to apologize for the tech he called on us with 0.2 seconds left in 2009 that cost us a win over Oregon." him and Mike Littlewood. I have opinions. Yeah, Mike Littlewood,
Yeah.
of course. But come on, Tony Padilla. How is that possible? He's the same fucking guy.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah,
And this could have very well cost them the game.
It could have.
Very well have cost them the
one
game.
of however many calls that could have cost them the game. I mean, that was sort of the thing as the game was going on. I did more yelling at my TV about officiating than I have done in a really long time. Like, I mean, I obviously these are not the sorts of things we keep track of, but I'm
Let me see. How many yells did I do?
I mean,
You can look at the chat, the Slack chat,
Yeah.
like just like how many all caps
like-
bullshits there are.
when I'm watching the second half of a game, even if it's a close game, typically I'm trying to kind of watch the game and I'm into the game, but I'm also kind of trying to do a little bit of writing. Like, I don't want to spend 3 hours after the game writing a recap or something. Like, I'm trying to get a little bit done. And so, and plus as I'm watching the game, like I'm into it, but I'm a tiny bit emotionally detached, just trying to kind of think through how this is going to fit with my story and like all this stuff. Right. But this game, I just was not, because it was just so bonkers. And all I could think was that's another call that could cost us the game. That's another call that could cost us the game. Until it was finally over and we had finally actually won the game, I just kept thinking like they're going to lose this game and I'm going to be
Pissed, livid
apoplectic about these calls, any one of which would have changed the course of the game, right? I mean, there was the T, there was the and one at the beginning of the second half that wasn't, because they called it, on the floor, which was just fucking insane.
Noah got fouled. Clearly an upward
while
motion,
he was in the
finishes
air,
the shot. While he was in the air, finishes the shot. We saw
against Cal
last weekend against Cal.
It wasn't last weekend. It was just on Thursday.
Yeah, a player got fouled, took a full step, and laid the ball in, and they gave an and one. He took a full step before leaping.
Yeah,
and
it's absolutely insane.
That was especially when it's so it's so quick. The shot goes up so quick. It goes up as you're whistling. Yeah. How do you not give that? That was literally how Noah shoots free throws, an 80% free throw shooter. So you're saying it's an 80% chance that they took away 3 points. Right. There's a 100% chance he took away 2 points. Yeah. It in a game that went to overtime.
Yakimovsky smokes the layup right after that. You're just oh my God. But then there was the 5-second call at the end of regulation. There was the no foul call on Noah's game tying 3. We haven't gotten there yet, but I mean, it's just there was. I mean, it's just
there was what should have been De Silva's 5th foul.
Yeah,
on something
on
that's called a charge every time.
Yep,
every time, because almost everything is called a charge.
Yep,
Noah was there.
Yep.
He was not. He was standing still, waiting for De Silva to run into him. De Silva hits him with the shoulder. Was kind of taking 2 steps. He wasn't even dribbling the ball. He was charging towards the basket. It's just something that's always called. But maybe when the best player on the floor, the second best that day, was on the floor, is the All Pac-12 guy for the team that desperately needs this win for their tournament, hopes. Maybe we don't whistle that 5th foul on him. Noah's only got 1, so let's call it on him.
It was so ridiculous.
It's absolutely nuts. Just every time, I'm gonna say anytime a block charge is called a block, at this point I'm stunned. Yeah. And then at that one I was just pissed. But let's just wind back a little bit. We always got to bitch about the refs as part of our identity as a podcast.
At this point,
yeah. I will say there was enough in this game where you were this is on purpose. I was 100% in the moment. I'm Stanford needs this win. The Pac-12 needs them to win this game.
If we were talking about European soccer, we'd be talking about this being a little match fixy. We'd be this is it's kind of feeling like somebody's maybe got a little bit of a vested interest in the outcome here.
Well, and you could say, I mean, maybe you argue, well, then why was De Silva in foul trouble? It's because he like had a ton of like very obvious fouls before that on defense.
Yeah.
Like he got matched up on one-on-one with Noah, and Noah just went after him, and like it's like, yeah, you could say that, but at the same time, there was so many just like, why did you call it that way? Especially as it got down to it. Like, as it got down to it. But let's rewind a bit back. Before halftime, Noah really keeps them in it. I think they were down, but actually let me just pull up the kind of the game flow here. They were down by, was it more than 10 or let's see, they were down by 7, I want to say. At one point. And then Noah kind of went nuts. 3-point play, a 3, brought him back to be a 1-point game at halftime, and then he comes out, scores the first bucket of the second half off of a nice inbounds play. It's funny to see them run these plays for Noah that they were running for Bonton.
Yeah.
By the way. But yeah, he comes in and knocks that down, and WC takes the lead, and at that point you're like, all right, game on. Like they're going to be in this. But still, Stanford makes a little bit of a run. It's not like a legit run, but they do enough. And it really happened right after that blown and one call that you talked about. That could have made it, I think it was 33-31.
We could have had a
WSU
lead.
Could have taken the lead.
Yeah.
But instead, Stanford went and actually it might have been 32-31. Yeah. And then Stanford went and scored the next 3 buckets. Suddenly up 39-31. KenPom, as their win percentage at that point, is like 83%.
Yep.
And that's about what you felt at that point. Like,
yeah. I mean, I remember you got on Slack and we're like, oh, this is it.
This is it. Yeah.
This is the run. This is where they pull away. This is it.
But Noah Williams said no.
Noah said, no, sir.
Said no.
No, sir.
Like, he just, it was nuts. Like, it's so
I mean, he ends up scoring.
cool. Like,
there were 34 points scored in the second half. He scored 21 of them. Like, it was literally just every time the game through. Now, they had a hard time catching up, but every time
they could never, like, that was so frustrating because they would always get it to, like, to 2, and then
like 3,
it would get
4,
extended
5,
out to 3 or 4.
6.
Yeah.
It was like right in that neighborhood, like pretty much throughout the entire second half. But the thing was, like, it could have very easily gone to 7 or 10 or 12 repeatedly, and Noah just kind of kept holding it down, keeping it within 2-3 possessions instead of 5 or 6 or 7 possessions, And
then I think we got a 3 finally. Yaki, after I think they had like 3 different chances to tie it on a 3, which offensive rebounding, baby. And he knocks it down. They tied at 57. There's only 3 minutes left. You're just like, please don't go into your like one of your classic let's not score for a while modes, and they kind of did that. Like, they kind of did it. They went blank on their next like 4 possessions. Stanford didn't do much. In there was I believe it was Deshaun's 4th foul, a clean block of De Silva, a very clean block. They called a foul. That he made a free throw. That's one of the points. I think the block charge was in there. But Noah hits, they get up to 62-57, and there's just over a minute to play, and you're like, we need something special now. Like, you're just like, and it's like, do we even have it? I don't know. Like, but then Noah hits another 3, 62-60. They get it back, 63-60, and you're, okay, they got a chance, but Noah misses at the rim, and you're like, fuck, okay, we almost did it.
And then Jackson almost gets the offensive rebound. Jackson almost gets his hands on it, and they get tied up. And then
they get tied up.
And then it turns over to Stanford. And so then they've got to inbound, like, all I got to do is inbound the ball, and then they're going to get fouled to go make a free throw, and it's over, right?
Well,
right?
One ref calls 5 seconds, and Kyle Smith looks like happy,
Yeah.
but like coach happy, where I'm not going to smile, but we got it. All right. Obviously,
We got it. Okay,
sideline
let's go.
The sideline's erupting behind him.
Yeah.
But then he looks over, sees the ref in the back has granted a timeout to Stanford, and
He loses
fantastic
his
reaction
shit.
from coach.
He loses his shit. It's awesome.
We all
Love
felt
that
that
guy.
one, man.
You know what though?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what we all did on it. Like
just as like a little.
I was just
note-
like, no, and like
Yeah.
my daughter is like, what's wrong, Daddy?
Oh.
I'm like,
I was screaming. Yeah, it was my. We've mentioned this before, but my boys will not watch games with me because I am too much. Like I am just like I'm too intense. I'm a ball of stress. I'm yelling at people that can't hear me. I'm just like I'm not my wife, God bless her, she loves me and she generally won't watch games. It's just like it's too much for everybody, right? Like I give myself ulcers, watching these games. And I was audibly screaming at the television. And I was up out of my chair, which doesn't often happen. Usually I'm just sort of yelling from my chair, while I'm holding my beer. I was up out of my...
I'm often standing up in these situations, which we'll get
Yes,
into in a second here.
we'll get into that in a sec. And so I was just like, there was loud yelling at the television. And but I kind of, honestly, I kind of felt like it was going to happen because...
Yeah.
Just about any coach worth their salt knows to call a timeout. The problem came from one official blowing his whistle and putting his hand in the air for 5, and then all of a sudden some other guy comes in. No, wait, I got a timeout. Like, no, that's not how it works, man. That's not if he was calling that timeout late enough that you couldn't blow your whistle before the other guy blew his whistle. That's not how it works.
Well, as WSU knows, in games against Stanford in 2004, sorry, my freshman year, I was at the game. WSU knows that if you call timeout in that last second, the refs aren't going to grant it. They're not supposed to grant it. Like, if you're at 4.5 on the way to 5, the refs are not supposed to grant that timeout.
Yeah.
Like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
But because I remember in that Stanford game in 2004, Marcus Moore turned and looked at the ref and was calling timeout, and the ref stopped, looked at him, and put 5 fingers right in front of his face. Like, because that's what refs, like, will do. Like, okay, sorry, you called timeout too late. But this one, they're like, no, he called timeout. It's fine. The coach called timeout, which in that situation, like, that's kind of one of the problems with coaching is to be able to call timeout. Like, they can just scream timeout whenever they want, apparently. And then if a ref hears it, it counts. Like, the refs that are supposed to be, like, watching the play on the court.
An easy way to solve it is eliminate coach timeouts. Like, that should be a no-brainer, honestly. Just players
Which I
have
feel
to call
like they've
the
done
timeouts
at like different points. They've like tested.
Players have to call timeouts, and that's it. But anyway, so Stanford, gets their timeout, and Kyle Smith is, losing his mind.
Apoplectic.
And I as a little bit of a side note, like I think it's pretty, the longer we spend around this team and the closer we follow them, I think it's pretty easy to see why he's able to get the most out of his players. And not even just talking about, not even talking at all about basketball strategy, just as a leader, it's number one, it's clear that he believes in his guys, right? Like he instills that confidence all the time. I mean, even after the game, he was like talking about FA making that 3-pointer, and he's like, we just kept telling him, keep shooting it, you'll be fine. I just want him confident. I want him doing that. And I mean, even talked about how they drew up a play for FA to shoot a 3 on the first possession of the second half. It didn't work because they thought Stanford was going to play a ball screen a certain way, and then they didn't play it that way, and then he didn't get a shot. But they were like, no, we wanted him to get a nice open look and see if he could hit one. It's like he just has this unwavering belief in his players that clearly rubs off on them, and it's with Noah. I mean, he'll make jokes and say, yeah, I think got a few gray hairs from that, but inside he's like, yeah, hell yeah, and he did that with Ellaby and with Bonton both last year and this year, I think that most casual fans first thought is, no, don't do that. And I think that's human nature too. Smith has this way of just being like, no, I want to listen. If they're doing enough good things, like I want to encourage the good things. And if I encourage enough good things, then the bad things will kind of not have a lot of space. Right. Like he just is constantly wanting his guys to be confident and loose and playing free. And man, you love playing for a guy like that. It's like it's really hard to play for someone, or just like it's not even just playing with someone, like in a job, whatever. If you feel like if you screw up, you're gonna get it right. It's pretty clear Kyle Smith is not that kind of coach. And even when, just look in the sidelines and you can just tell when somebody makes a stupid play, like he just sort of claps his hand together and is like, okay. And that it's not like a laissez-faire thing where it's like, whatever's clever, but he would rather err on the side of encouraging guys. And then you see his passion come out, right? Like we see it come out. Saw it come out in that 5 count. We see it come out sometimes in the technicals that he's gotten this year. And not necessarily technical fouls are good, but it's just, I think it's a reasonable proxy of his passion.
Well, a lot of the technical fouls are often because he's defending his players,
that's exactly right.
And how the game is being called against him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, players see that and they pick up on that. And it's really not, it's not hard to see why they trust him and why they play hard for him and why he's able to get the most out of the guys literally everywhere he's been. Like this isn't just, Wazoo. I mean, this is Columbia, this is San Francisco, this is Wazoo. Like you can see why guys like playing for him. And so, when he lost his mind, I was losing my mind, but I was like, as I was watching it, I was like, wow, that's okay. But, thank goodness he didn't get teed up for that. Cause I've seen guys get teed up for less than that.
Yeah.
So.
But like, that's one of the things where like, I remember looking at him like, man, I'm surprised that Pac-12 refs didn't blow and just end the game on a technical foul there because you see that happen. Like, because the game isn't over yet. Like, Stanford still has to make a free throw. And if they would have called that, they would have given 4 chances to make the winning free throw. But they didn't call it, so I'll give them credit there.
Yeah.
Because, like,
they owed
Smith lost his goddamn
multiple
mind.
ones by that point.
Yeah. But, man, so they get to inbound the ball. And what's interesting? Stanford passed it into Dejon Davis, who's an 80% free throw shooter, and then let him pass back to Michael O'Connell, the freshman, who had one of his best games he's ever played, in his freshman season up to this point.
Well, and
he was playing really well.
He's also a good free throw shooter.
That's what I'm saying. That's
75%,
what I'm saying. He's an 84.
Like that.
Well, he was 84% before this game.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So you're like, okay, well, you let him, but then you're like, okay, it's the freshman. I get that, And this kid who has had a great game up until then, he's one of the reasons Stanford is about to win, especially with De Silva having done almost nothing, whatever. But man, the look on his face when he went to the line.
He was absolutely shitting himself.
Also, can I say,
poor guy,
the most Stanford looking motherfucker I have ever seen. That is
this is an extremely Stanford team, right?
Yeah, if you had to just create an auto create a Stanford player in in a video game, this is what he would look like. This is a 6'2" point guard with a huge chin and dark hair, kind of slicked back. Oh my God, this is a Stanford player. He's probably incredibly smart, whatever. Yeah. But man, he was terrified. And oh my God, after he misses the first one, second one, like he had a brown spot in his pants. Like he definitely did.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was shitting his pants. Like
Well,
looked
it's one thing when it like
horrified.
kind of rims off. It's another thing when it's like
when it clanks
just complete brick city, like wasn't even close.
twice.
And you're like, after the first one, I'm like, oh my God, he might actually miss that second one too. Like it was so bad. It was so bad.
And Stanford definitely did us a solid down the stretch, missing some free throws.
Yeah.
Which it's just nice to get that bit of luck on this
Yep.
team who's playing without their best player, and
Yeah.
they're playing without they're the lesser team. They're playing a fucking roster where you got 35 minutes of one junior, and out of the how many minutes? 55 times 4, or 55 times 5. 50 times 5 is 250. 5 times 5, 25. So 275 minutes. 37 were played by juniors. None were played by seniors in this game.
Yeah.
You have that going against an experienced Stanford roster. And so we are deserved a little bit of luck right now. It's like, come on, like give us
Yeah.
a fucking break. Like,
Yeah.
And we got a break when he missed, like when he shit his pants, and he continued shitting his pants throughout the rest of the game, which is funny. But especially in that third overtime. But
And then, of course,
just
by the
to
way,
give us that break.
they don't even try to rebound. They pull
Yeah,
all
what?
4 guys.
I don't get that.
I don't either.
I know you're worried about the foul, but also if you foul,
It's
like,
the
the worst
two
thing that
shots.
happens is they get 2 shots.
They get 2 shots. Well, and
But
then you're
you
thinking,
can take 2 to 3 seconds off of the
Yeah.
charge down the court
Well,
by just
I mean,
making them fumble around for the
Yes.
rebound.
That's exactly it. Jared Haas is a fundamentally conservative coach. Like, so like we saw that with De Silva, right? So with 2 fouls, boom, to the bench, like 13 minutes on the bench, in the first half.
Yeah, they could have put that. Like, that's why I think that they could have probably put the game away in the first half if he just leaves De Silva on the court.
Haas is they are 240th in 2 foul participation. So Ken Palm has a stat to measure how many minutes go to guys when they have 2 fouls. Just kind of trying to measure that for different teams and how aggressive coaches are. Stanford's 240th in that. They rank 240th in that. So, it's clear that he's super conservative.
WSU's 88th, by the way.
Yeah.
Which also is a function of their roster, too. But
Right.
Yeah.
So, so he misses the second free throw. We get a clean rebound with 10 seconds, and Noah's able to, just sort of like charge right up the floor. Because if you put even just a couple guys in there, maybe they get a hand on something, maybe the ball, maybe
They got to go
burn.
chase it in the corner.
Yeah.
It goes out of bounds.
And we got no
you know.
timeouts.
No
right?
timeouts.
So
it goes
maybe
out of bounds.
burn
They
2
can
or
set
3
up
seconds.
a press.
Yeah. Just something,
Although there's no way Haas would have set up a press.
No. But instead they're going
He
to
would have let them walk it up.
Instead they're going to drop, 4 guys plus the free throw shooter. Nice clean rebound, and Stanford's going to set up their defense. And I mean, you can't stop Noah Williams, right?
You had that feeling at that moment. You're like, he is so on fire right now. Like, please just don't foul him. Like, just let him get, like, we need to see Noah get a shot up right now. And Kyle Smith said it. He's like, he was getting worried that Noah was taking too long, because teams are not usually going to foul until like that, between that like 6 to 3 second range.
Right.
To the point where if you foul them, it's going to be hard for them to get another good shot down the floor.
Right.
So like you try, but he put it up around, 5 seconds.
And I'm not shocked that Stanford didn't foul, considering how good we'd been on the offensive glass. So that's a consideration, right? I mean, you foul
It's
Noah
not
Williams.
it's like a 50-50 proposition, fouling or not fouling.
It's not as clear cut as a lot of people think. WSU puts in, Deshaun Jackson, they put in Vova, they put in FA, and just like, try and go get. I mean, that's what they would have done, right?
Yeah.
Try and go get an offensive rebound with those 3 guys, and Vova, Vova didn't play, but he would have been in there at that point. So it's not as clear cut. So I don't have any problem with not fouling, but man, they did not play Noah very tight which was weird.
Yeah, they let him dribble all the way up
Yeah.
to about 25 feet.
And they didn't press him when he got to the 3-point line. It's not like he had to take a shot 5 steps beyond the free throw or 3-point line. Like he was able to run.
Press it.
He was able to run right up to the line.
The defender didn't even check him until 25 probably is wrong. Like 23
kind of a little fake ball screen. Like it wasn't a real screen, but it was just kind of like just a little bit of interference.
He wasn't going to take it.
Yeah, just a little bit of interference, and he got a remarkably clean look, which he buried. And then what, Craig?
Well, I mean, it was an exciting moment. I'm standing in front of my TV as I do for every game, but every close game of my sporting teams. I always, the women's hoops teams, every goddamn game they play is down to the wire. So I'm up there. The Sounders, I definitely did some of the similar maneuvers when the Sounders came back and beat Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. But yeah, so we got a nice little area rug. We've recently flipped it, so it's like a different direction. And it does seem a bit more slippery since we did that. Like we changed the grain or something. I don't know. So Noah hits that shot, and I instinctively just if any of you have ever watched or been around me at a WSU sporting event, and I have many people that can back this up, and you see some of the responses on Twitter and whatever. I just leaped. I tried to. Turned and leaped, and I was like, Noah! And I just turned, and then my foot, I feel it slip back a little bit, and then I just feel like a pop. Oh, no. And I just kind of stumble back down. I'm like, oh, and my daughter, I think she was in the other room. She heard me, and she comes running in. She's like, Dad, like my beautiful, almost sometimes terrible three-year-old daughter, but I love her. She comes in, and she's like, Dad, you okay? Do you have an owie? Do you need a Band-Aid? I'm like, I don't know. And
I don't have time to think about that right now.
Thankfully, it was like a break in the game at that. It's like trying to watch the heave, at the end. And I try to put my foot on the ground. I put my left leg. I put it on the ground, and it just feels like my floor is completely uneven. And I'm like, I have done something wrong here.
Your floor is not uneven. I mean, it's an old house.
I mean, it is a little bit. We got it's sink, but not like that.
But not like that.
So yeah, I'm just like, this isn't good. I'm like, and B's like, Daddy, are you okay? I'm like, Daddy's just
Daddy's just really happy.
Right
it's
now.
okay.
Daddy's just really happy. It's fine. So I'm just like, I went on the Slack, and I don't think many people pay attention to it because we're all just all caps, no,
I saw
Williams.
it. I saw it, and I was like,
and there's guys,
I
think I just blew. I think I just blew out my Achilles.
And I was like, oh,
it's hurts.
That's bad. But then you didn't talk much about it after. You didn't talk much about it after that. So
at that point, I was locked in. I'm like, hey, the game is still happening. Now they really need to win this fucking game. I hurt myself during this game. They have to win this game at this point. This story can't end with WSU losing the game that I so that I hurt myself. So we watched the rest of the game and whatever. Later in the night, I have myself convinced because I can move on it and it didn't hurt that bad. I'm like, oh, if I busted my Achilles, I've seen players do this and they are screaming in agony on the ground. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I didn't do that. My sports injury, of course. But yeah, so I my partner is a nurse practitioner. She comes home and we're convinced it's just I strained my calf or something because it kind of hurts higher up my leg more. And so like, okay, it's fine. But yeah, we get up the next day and it's like quite a lot more swollen, and it's getting swollen in places that are a bit concerning. And we do.
And you sent me a picture.
I will say,
you sent me a picture.
yeah,
and I was like, hey,
yeah.
that
I'm
looks
like, yeah,
bad.
so about you, do you remember me saying that? Yeah, about that. It's pretty serious.
It
Well,
hurts.
later in that night, my daughter, who I had told, like, okay, the rest of the day's got, because you know how like a 3-year-old will be this, like, there's like those like follow you around.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
incredibly close.
Oh, yeah.
And so she was doing that, and she slipped, and she hit the back of my ankle with her knee. Like, to the point
And
so
you
hard
thought
that
you
I
were
was
gonna
like,
die.
I was like going, fuck, like, are you okay? Like, you hit me so hard. Like, and she's like, ow, ow. And I'm like, what did you hit? Like it was either I was like, this is either her head or her knee just hit me. Like, it's not like, and so she racked me in the knee. I'm like, oh my God, having a 3-year-old with like a significant injury to your lower leg is just like not a good combination.
No.
So yeah, the next day, you know, it's like a night after Amanda she was working, and so she gets back, and we're just like, she's like looking it up because, you know, she's got her curiosity, like this is what she does for a living.
Yeah, right.
She finds this test where you can kind of like squeeze your calves, and then like if your Achilles is properly connected, your foot should just kind of like you kind of sit on your knees on a chair, and then you squeeze the calves, and your foot should kind of react a bit, like, you know, like kind of when you hit your elbow or whatever it is,
reflexes,
or when you knock your knee and your leg kicks or whatever it is. But we did that one, and it was just nothing was happening. Like, it was totally. So it's like, okay, I gotta make an appointment. So I made an appointment with I call an orthopedic sports medicine type place, and they, you know, tell me I have to have a referral. Thank you, United Healthcare. I have to have a referral. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know what this is. Like, it seems pretty clear cut from like a pretty common injury. Yeah. Lots
Super
of people
fun.
have it.
Everybody's got to spend more money in order to jump through the hoops.
Oh, so I went to the urgent care place, and yeah, sure enough, like, they diagnosed it as that, you know, x-rays clean, no broken bones or anything. So I'll have to do like an ultrasound to see. But I will say, they said it was only partially torn. Like, he thinks it's only partially torn, which is good, for my recovery prospects and all that. But, so I ruptured, which is it sounds worse because it's a tendon. So you say ruptured instead of torn. I ruptured my Achilles tendon, celebrating Noah's game-tying 3. I will say, I tweeted out a picture of myself in crutches and a boot, and tagged Noah. And let's be honest, I was tagging Noah because I wanted him to see it. And he
Wait,
did
is that why people
respond to me.
tag things?
Yeah, well, one, I wanted him to see it because I thought he would make him laugh, or say, you know, like, you know, just like, Noah,
absolutely.
like, I love you this much, buddy. Like,
yeah.
And two, like, so I'll say I kind of went through a bit of a crack. Like, so the night when, like, last night when we were trying to figure out what it was, and then we came to that conclusion, I was just like pissed at myself. I'm like, you idiot! Like you just can't happen. Like now you have to tell the story of this is why you hurt. And like when I went to urgent care, like, they're like, it was a nurse practitioner. He's like, were you like playing sports or something? You know?
No, I was celebrating.
Not
in
quite.
My living room.
Someone else was playing sports.
Yeah, I was watching. It was very active.
So I was just like, last night I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I was so mad at myself. I was so embarrassed. But like, I told you this, Jeff, like, one of my like coping mechanisms has always been like self-deprecation. And so it's just like, I told you, I was telling my boss about it earlier in the morning, like this morning. And then I just immediately blurted out like, why? And I sent her the video of the 3, and I was like, this is what happened. Like, at this very moment is when it happened, blah, blah, blah. So I just realized, like, I just got to lean into this and make it part of the brand. like this is part of the Craig Powers brand.
Well, I mean, Craig. This is not the first time you've hurt yourself. Now, this is the most serious. No doubt this is the most serious. But this is not the first time you've hurt yourself celebrating a game. Like, I mean, you've had, there was one time that listen, I'm certainly no doctor, but you might have been concussed, buddy. Like,
yeah. Man, you're going way back. Yeah. The Oregon State win in 2010.
Yep.
When I was living in Nashville, and when they got the win, I was so excited. You know, obviously wins were at a premium back then. Yep. And I got so excited. I think it was our first Pac-12 win outside since the 2008 Apple Cup. And I just ran through my house and was jumping and cracked my head on the ceiling and was bleeding from my head. And if you go back on the game thread, you can see it in there, me saying that. So this is just like, it's funny, all the number of people that have, like, even it's funny, I talked to a friend who's not a Cougar. She actually went to ASU, but like, she's a friend like in my industry, a very good friend who we haven't talked in a couple years, but we kind of reconnected recently, and we wanted to just have a chat about what she was doing with her company and stuff or whatever. And we were talking, and we were just catching up, and I'm telling her about it, and she was just like, I'm not even surprised, like because it's just like anyone who knows me knows that I'm like stupid about this stuff and like get overly excited. Like anyone's ever watched a game with me, probably in person or not. Like if you just watch a game with me on TV, like in a public place, like like it's just you've seen the absurdity of my reactions to things, and it's funny. Like I don't know if I've told a story like when the Seahawks were making their run to the Super Bowl in 2013, 2014. I was on some like antidepressant meds, and I noticed like throughout the season, I was just like, I'm just not reacting to stuff the way that I remember. So before the Super Bowl, I intentionally stopped taking them for a few weeks so that I could live the full of my reactions when watching the Super Bowl. And so like, and I don't like, I've done counseling stuff. Like, no one's ever fixed fully from that, but I to the point where I didn't feel like I needed the meds anymore. But like, but now I'm, I just like fully like emote to things, and it cost me a tendon this time, and it's my Achilles heel, if you will, is now my absurd reactions. Quite literally, my Achilles is the way I react. And if you listen to our megacast about the 2006-2007 season, which if you subscribe to this feed or you're new to this feed, I wholly recommend going back and listening to that, and also the Rose Bowl season one, which Jeff was on. But we have the one, we had the olds and the less olds. So I talked about how I was nearly arrested once for my or accused of inciting a riot at a Cougar basketball game when I was in school. So a lot of like people that knew me from then and has been to games with me, they're like, yeah, this is on brand. And so I decided to lean into it. I'll share it. I put it on my Instagram. I put it on my Twitter. I'm pretty sure this is the most likes I've ever gotten on a tweet. Thanks everyone. I appreciate your support. Yeah. Whether you're laughing at me or whether, I don't know. I've gotten a lot of comments where people are like, good to know that I'm not the only one that reacts like that. Like,
hey,
watching the game. Like,
it is only by the grace of God that none of the rest of us have blown out an Achilles trying to like either celebrate or get up and yell at the TV or whatever.
It's so funny because I
was going to say, all I know is that thank God they won. because that would have really been.
Yes, I mean, because that was all of it. I had stakes in the game at this point. Like, I'm sitting there thinking I no longer have an Achilles tendon, and WSU. So in the first overtime, like DJ, but I had to temper my reactions because I was like sitting down at this point. Eventually I was like, I should probably get off of this foot. And I was trying to walk it off for a bit, but you can't walk off a ruptured Achilles.
No.
Maybe if you have the good drugs that NFL players get, but
I mean, you might be able to
but
walk, but it's still going to be.
Yeah. Oh, I could definitely walk, but it's like a club foot walk. Like that's how I'm walking now. I have a big old boot. But before that, I was just like, they saw me walking in urgent care. They're like, oh, there's actually a shorter way we usually go, because they have like the urgent care side and the primary care side. So they're like,
right.
We'll just walk through the primary care side. It's shorter to get to the room. I'm like, thank you. But yeah, so it was just like I had these stakes now for the rest of the game, like where it was like, yeah, DJ hit that 3 to put him up when there really wasn't that much happened in the first overtime. Like there were not very many points scored. What was it, 5-5?
Yes, yeah. The first overtime was ugly, like really ugly. It got better after that, though. It got better after
definitely
that,
a lot.
sure.
Like, so it was 68-68. So it was the first overtime when Noah had that breakaway.
Yes.
And love him, man. He did have 9 turnovers in this game.
That was one of them.
Just apparently thought that no Stanford player was going to run back.
Anywhere near him.
Kind of took like the big old stutter step for the big two-handed flush I think he was going to go up for. And then the only good play that he made after bricking those 2 free throws, Michael O'Connell runs back, knocks it off of Noah out of bounds. And it's like, I think it was tied at that point, and it would have put him up by 2.
Yeah.
And like you said, well, we'll wait till we get that point. But like a 2-point lead any lead in overtime is huge.
Yes.
Like everyone's so gassed. Like, but they turn it over. But think whatever you want to think. They made that stop at the end of the first overtime, where I loved. They came out of the timeout and just kept trapping the ball handlers.
Yeah. And it wasn't
eventually
even a
they said
great trap. It wasn't a great trap.
Yeah,
it was just
Stanford was
enough.
definitely not expecting it though.
It was just enough to disrupt it. And honestly, I mean, it gets back to what we said, about Stanford before. Like, they're just so fucking conservative. Like, and you can see that ethos just sort of like permeates all the players. Where it's like, okay, I mean, there were a couple times where
I can't do anything. I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
We're supposed to get it to De Silva down low. Like, that's what we're supposed to do.
We trapped hard the first time, and then they passed out of it, and then it was kind of like our guys kind of looked around like, do we trap again? Do we do this again? I guess. Yeah. Okay. I guess. And it really wasn't a great trap. It wasn't a hard trap. It was kind of a 3/4 speed trap, which normally is death, right? For a trap. Like, if you're going to trap, you better come hard.
One pass is will toast you. One good pass. Well, not even a good pass, like a half pass.
There was a couple times there where a good pass would have gotten him, but Stanford also was clearly playing for the last shot. That was the other.
Yeah, they did not want to score.
Right, they did not want to score. They were not going to try, and maybe that was part of Kyle Smith's calculus. Maybe he just thought, all right,
they're terrified of Noah.
We'll trap him, and they're probably playing for the last shot, and so just keep trapping them. They probably won't, even if there's a wide open shot, they probably won't take it. And sure enough, they just sort of like passed it around the perimeter until they finally tried to enter the ball to De Silva, and Fa, God bless him, had a
great
fucking amazing overtime, and it wasn't just the 3 that he hit. It was, all of it. I mean, he ends up scoring 9 points. He gets that. In fact, I don't think he's credited with a steal there because nobody ever actually.
Because they didn't get to possession.
Yeah, nobody ever actually ends up with the ball. But
shot clock violation.
But it basically was a steal, because he gets in there, gets his hand in there, the ball ends up on the ground, everybody's scrambling, and and time runs out. It was a hell of a play. So yeah, pretty fortunate.
I will say I had some flashbacks to that 2004 game because in that game, before Loddick hit the game-winning three, the ball was just rolling on the ground. Yep. And with like 2 seconds left, and you're just like, oh my God, they're gonna do it, and then he just like hoists something, and it's like, So at that moment, I'm thinking like, please don't let them just like scramble lets him find a wide open guy somewhere with like 1 second left. That's what, you hate when your team makes a great defensive play and then in the scramble, the offensive team gets an easy bucket. But everyone dove on the ground. Like, I'm pretty sure like 8 of the 10 players were on the ground at that point.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't put a little more time on the clock, but
should have been more, but whatever.
Yeah, it probably should have been closer to a second, but
should have been a full second.
Second overtime. B has taken a crap at this point, and I had to go change that diaper in between the first and second overtime. I had to hobble upstairs. My 3-year-old daughter, who has yet to get out of pull-ups and diapers, she was having some intestinal troubles. I'll say that was one of many that day. So I had to come back down and watch I had a little bit of a tape delay at the start, when you have to kind of fast forward when they're walking the ball up the court and stuff. We had that, but yeah, the second overtime gets a little more action, like a little bit more happens. Is that the one where Noah started? No. Is that the one where Noah started the third overtime? I can't even remember what happened in the second overtime at this point. But yeah, it's, De Silva probably is starting to assert himself a little more at this point. And it's just nuts. Like, again, the stakes are there for me. Like, WSU needs to win this game because I am down one Achilles tendon, and it's just kind of, it was up and down. Like, WSU scores, Stanford scores. WSU scores, Stanford gets a free throw, but then they get a run out, take the lead back. WSU gets a free throw, and then what that was when so WSU Yakumovsky gets fouls out De Silva, which was huge because we had to do 5 more minutes after this. Fouls out De Silva on that rebound foul, makes one, misses one. Noah gets a rebound because he hasn't had an amazing enough game already. Gets a huge offensive rebound, gets fouled. He only makes 1 or 2, so it's a 2-point game. And this is another one of those calls that you're like, are you kidding me? Was it Dallaire, I think, ends up with the ball. And just one of the easiest push-offs you could ever call.
Yep.
Like he pushes Kuntz off. Kuntz flops, falls down because
of all the calls that we are like, that's bullshit, blah blah blah. Okay, the only one that was like, I shouldn't say the only one. The technical foul and the Noah and one were pretty egregious. But if we were ranking them from most egregious to least egregious,
most obvious,
like this is called 10 out of 10 times. Like this isn't even like so like the block charge we talked about where Noah gets called for the block and it's pretty clearly a charge in terms of what they typically call. But I mean, every once in a while that one gets called.
I would often lean to never call that a charge.
Absolutely,
I'll just call it a block.
But every once in a while it does get called a block, and you're like, okay, whatever. This thing was like a 10 times out of 10 offensive foul. Like literally 10 out of 10. They never miss this call. They never don't call this call. If you extend your arm, if you extend your elbow, it's. I mean,
DJ Rodman had been called on this earlier in the game.
I mean, our guys have been called on it multiple times. Lots and lots of guys against us have been called on it multiple times.
And he was out. The worst thing, he's out top, isolated.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Like,
not
it's-
even like questionable. Like he very clearly extends his arm, shoves the defender down. Like
both the announcers are like,
yeah.
what was that?
I mean, I try not to be hyperbolic. Like that is a 10 out of 10 call. Like they quite literally never miss an opportunity to make that call, and to have it be a no call.
Stanford really needed this win.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. That's the match fixie part of this. Like you watch it, you just go like how is that even possible? And the only legitimate explanation is like the fix was in. I mean, I don't know how else you look at that play and go,
because that should have been an offense foul. WSU ball.
Yep.
We're doing
WSU
free
up
throws.
2,
We're
coming
doing
back the other direction.
game.
We're doing free throws. Yep. And so then it ends up he ends up scoring to tie the game. I mean, that's a potential 3 or 4 point swing.
And I thought Noah had the winner at the end of this one, but
I thought so too. And of course he got clobbered and no foul call there either. So
because he had a lane, and if he didn't get clobbered, I think he would have finished. No call.
I mean,
it's the ultimate.
For him to completely
you're so
miss,
pissed.
he missed the rim. Like he.
Yeah. Like it's a guy that has been having, and he did go. He went 0 for his first 10 in overtime, which, in fairness, he was completely gassed. But and his back probably hurt, like from carrying everyone. But
yeah.
I mean, he just doesn't miss like that. Like to just like he's just gonna drive the lane and just like shoot an air ball from 4 feet. Are you kidding me? Like, so on the backs, you have those back-to-back plays where Stanford gets a tying shot on a very clear push-off, and then Noah drives the lane. So apparently they're just not going to call any foul, I guess, at the end of the game. I guess that's what, and it just happened to definitely go against WSU at that point. Noah, like, as much as they love to tee up Noah, he's yelling at them that's a foul, but maybe just because the quarter was over, they weren't going to call it, or the overtime was over, they weren't going to call it. But he's just like screaming up, like you can see him like that's a foul, that's a foul, that's a foul. Like it's like he got hammered. Like you could still call the fouls when there's 3 seconds left. You know that, right?
Yes.
Like because we didn't even talk about it before because we talked about my injury, but he got hip checked on the game tying 3. This game could have been over.
Yes.
In regulation, like,
and it was not
checked.
That foul was not maybe it's a foul, maybe it's not. Like they've called that foul consistently all year. You cannot jump into a guy's legs on a jump shot. You just can't. And it's been called multiple times. We've seen it called probably 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times, both for us and against us, right? Like this is not a new call. And when so the replay that everybody sees, it's not super clear how much contact there is, but there was kind of a reverse angle that ESPN showed that was extremely clear. Like it was like, I mean, he landed in his space and hip checked him off his spot. Like that is clearly a foul. And it's a foul for a good reason because it's a fucking dangerous play. Right? I mean, this is how people end up with sprained ankles and blown out knees and all kinds of stupid shit because guys are jumping under people's feet. It's the kind of stuff that causes fistfights at the YMCA. Like it is, you do not jump under a guy's feet like that. And he did it. And which, I mean, good reason. Like he's trying to contest the 3. Like I understand how it happened, but it's a fucking foul. And so to not call that foul, I don't know if the trail ref who would be responsible for calling him. I don't know if he's like trying to look at the clock and see if the shot got off. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but to miss that call is super, 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 super egregious. And, it's probably only second in egregiousness to the push off by Dallaire at the end of the first overtime, which was, the plainest thing. I mean, normally you'd have all three referees racing to blow their whistle on that one. And
oh my God!
It
It punching the other way, just wanting to punch the other way, and that's just what they love to do.
They're like,
they
no
love
wait,
to punch
who
the
gets
other
to
way.
call that one? They're like in a race to who blows
Who gets
the whistle.
to do the aggressive hand on the back of the head and punching the other way?
I know.
No one wanted to do that. Really, you guys love that
all right.
shit. They didn't want to do it on De Silva. They didn't want to do it on Dallaire. Come on, this is your favorite call to make. But we're going to a third overtime. We're going to a third. By the way, we're an hour.
Going
and a
to a
half
third
in,
OT.
Yes, this is an OT podcast.
I know.
At this point,
yeah.
So we're going to a third OT, and what a fun 5 minutes of basketball! Like for once, someone else goes on a 5-minute scoring drought.
Yeah.
Just fucking gorgeous. Starts out. What did we get? What was the first bucket? Now I'm trying to remember. I remember the second bucket.
I think it was FA, right? It was like an FA. It was an FA layup, right? I think an assist. From,
FA layup.
Assist from Yakimovsky.
Yakimovsky. Yep. Oh, that was the one where FA kind of looked like he was going to lose it going up. Yeah. Another one, like FA, these bounce, and Kuntz does it too. These like bounce passes to bigs, like very good. Like they get in the lane, they look for him. I mean, when you got a guy like FA who can catch it and dunk it, like it's pretty good. And Deshaun too. Like it's good to have guys like that. It makes you more confident throw the pass. But that was Andre doing his point forward thing, and getting FA a bucket. And then they come down, and I gotta think that Rodman's shot got blocked, or he just shot about the worst shot he's ever shot in his life, because it was about 8 feet left of the hoop. But there, Kuntz picks up loose ball, lays it in, and you pointed out what's the commentator's name, the color guy?
Adrian Branch.
I can't remember his name. Adrian Branch.
Yeah.
Adrian Branch. The only like maybe salient point he made is when WSU got up 4 with 3.5 minutes left in overtime. He's like, a 4-point lead in overtime is like a 10-point lead regularly. And like you're like, okay, we're up 2 possessions
especially
now.
At that point.
And Stanford, we're 52 minutes into this game. Like,
yep.
It's really hard to make up 4 points. Stanford hates shooting threes. Like, they just don't want to shoot a 3, which, God bless Jared Haas, man. I know they make their living inside, but they didn't this game. And, maybe a 3 or 2 might have helped you. But, O'Connell, this is when he fully melts down.
Yep.
He gets a breakaway, and Jazz just strips him. By the way, I'm making Jazz hands a thing. So whenever Jazz makes a defensive play, it's Jazz hands. We're doing Jazz hands now. So Jazz strips him. Jazz makes another steal later in the overtime as well. Strips I think Dejon Davis. Or no, he was out by then. So I can't remember who he stripped later. He's got good hands. Like, that's one thing. Maybe he doesn't have the greatest foot speed in the world or whatever, but he works hard, and he's got good hands. He's got a little bit of jump, a little bit of bounce to him. He has the tools enough if he works hard to be a good defensive player, and he shows it sometimes. He had 4 steals, and he didn't even get credit with the steal, but he prevented a basket. And then O'Connell follows it up. He's the inbounder, 5-second call. They come back down next possession. He just throws it out of bounds. Like, at this point, this kid
total meltdown
has melted down. Like, he is just done. He missed a couple shots in the overtime. Like, it was just, I don't think anyone could have a worse 5 minutes of basketball. Like, it was an awful time for him. I'm sure he'll be good and destroy us at some other point later in his career. But at that moment, he was very good for WSU. And then, man, another Yaki assist behind the back. And I said this to you. FA has been long back iron, over and over again on his threes, right down Broadway on this one.
Yeah.
I swear, it was because his legs are so tired.
He just needed some tired legs.
What is he? He's played like 45 minutes of it to this point. Like he's just gassed, and he just needed to be tired.
Yep.
So he shot his same shot, and it just didn't have as much behind it.
Yep.
Straight down. What was he? 0 for 20 at that point. Like a 20.
0 for his last
20 misses in a row, but that one mattered, man, because that was the game right there. Like 7-point lead with like 2.5 minutes left in the third overtime. Stanford looked defeated at that point. Like they honestly did not look like they're like fucked it. Because even like it was a 9-point game with 45 seconds left, and you'll often see teams try to play the foul game, and they didn't even try.
No, they were just.
I mean, after Noah went down, finally got his 40th point. Finally, after going 0 for 10, he was having an efficient game until he was completely gassed. Like we'll give him that. Finally gets 40. They're up 9. He tries to hit that 3 to match his dad. I wanted that one to go down so hard, but I mean, he's played in his 54th minute, and he's shooting a step back 3 from 25 feet. That thing ain't going down.
No.
Like, that's not going down for anybody.
That would have been perfect.
Besides, maybe Steph Curry might be the only person that can make that shot. But man, they won. So it's all worth it. My torn Achilles is worth it, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna take your word for it that it's worth it. I mean,
when those medical bills start rolling in, we'll talk about it then.
Well, like I just know that I mentioned that my typical routine is about halftime. I start to, I open up my computer, open up a new story. I basically try to recap kind of the first half, get that written. Maybe, if there's photos that have been filed, I try to get the photo selected, just basically all the stuff I can kind of knock out, at halftime. And, at the end of this game, I literally had written 0 words, because there was just, the game was just too much. It was too exciting. I just didn't.
As Kyle Smith said, it was a great college basketball game.
Yeah,
it was just
full of like
you have a superlative performance by one player. You have just like back and forth and overtimes and bad play. You always got to have bad play. You got to have guys fucking up in a college basketball game. That's college sports.
Yep.
Guys miss free throws. Yep. They turn the ball over. This is college sports.
Yep. And
God bless all of you that bet on this game.
Oh God. It was probably at least 30 minutes before I even started trying to write. Cause I'm like, the hardest part is, when you write these things, like you're trying to find narrative, right? Like you're trying to find, okay, what's the story of the game? And obviously, Noah scores 40. I mean, that's the thing. But there was so much other shit. And really that played out with like all the stories I did today, like where it was just like, so basically, here's what happened with that. So, cause you were joking like, okay, WC wins. I, rip my Achilles and Jeff writes, thousands of words. And it's like, basically what happened was this. So Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Yeah. Probably about like kind of early Sunday evening. I've got these ideas in my head of these different things that I kind of want to touch on. They didn't make it into the story because there was just like that game was so fucking bonkers. There were so many things, and it was like, okay, so the gamer's obviously going to talk about Noah, right? Because I mean, like that's just guy scores 40 points. He basically wills the team to victory. Like, that's going to be the guy. But even in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so there's all this other stuff. There's the rebounding, there's, all these shots that Noah took, which is just like totally insane. There's, the way that
Noah was 41% usage and then topped it and was 43% usage against Stanford. Yeah. These are numbers that no one touches ever. It's nuts.
I mean, Bonton has topped 40% one time, and that was against Arizona. He got to 47%. If you remember.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but like he did it once, right? Like, and I think his next highest was like 36 or 37, something like that. And Noah went 41 and 43 in back-to-back games. Like, that's crazy pants. And just like for a little bit of perspective for people, like Isaac Bonton, I think, was at 31% for the season, and that's like top 40 in the country. So like to go to 40%, 40+%, 2 games in a row is absolutely nuts. And then his 35 field goal attempts is most in the country this year. Now, granted, he needed 3 overtimes to get there, so that's part of the deal. But also the fact that to me, that's almost kind of more impressive because, you know, he was getting those last, you know, handful of attempts in the 53rd, 54th, 55th minute. Like he played 54 of the 55 minutes. Like he took some bad shots, I'll say, but like sure.
he got some good looks. Like he was going at the rim, but he was just like no legs, man.
No, he was gassed. And so that was kind of the other piece I wanted to write about was, you know, the other players on the team and, you know, how they needed to then step up in the overtime, and they did. You know, F.A. had some nice finishing around the basket and also hit a 3. Yakumovsky with the passing, you know, we already talked about that. Jazz Kuntz came up with some big rebounds and a big steal. Deshaun Jackson only played, I think, 5 or 6 minutes in the overtime before fouling out, but he was pretty big, had an assist and a steal, a couple of rebounds. You know, DJ Rodman hit a 3, even though he missed that one that you talked about. But he hit a 3, had I think 2 offensive rebounds in the overtime. Like he was big. So like all these other guys, you know, stepped up when Noah was just, you know, kind of finally out of gas. Which was just, it's just really cool to see that they did that. And basically what happened was, you know, I started to write all this on Sunday night. Kind of got into it and thought, okay, I'll write maybe like, you know, 1,500 words total. I'll do like 500 on each of these things and just kind of go from there. And then, you know, the more I start digging into it, the rebounding thing gets longer, the Noah thing gets longer. And next thing I know, like I'm at like 2,200, 2,300, 2,400 words. And I'm like, oh, that is so long. Well, then I started thinking, all right, well, the rebounding thing, that one's, you know, 1,100 words on its own. So let's just break that off into its own thing. And then, and by the way, like I did it. So like I said, I wrote most of it Sunday night, and then I got up early this morning. It's Monday. Got up early this morning and did a bunch of writing this morning before I had to work. And so then it was just a matter of like, you know, just kind of breaking it apart. Cause I finally just realized like, okay, this is really like 3 different stories. So I'll just break them apart, post 3 different things. It'll make it look like I did a lot of work today, but really, I just took the one story because it was long and broke it into 3 different things. So that's kind of how it happened. Then I just had to write new headlines. But
content, baby.
Yeah, get those page views, get those clicks. I did write the most clickbaity tweet of my entire life on the.
I will say,
on the rebounding one.
I got a text from. If I just say one of your former students, that is a good friend of mine, yeah. Brad. He's like he sent a screenshot of the tweet and says, "This is so clickbaity," and then his brother thought the same thing. Had to be intentional.
I hope
there you go, Brad and Brian. It wasn't intentional.
I hope they listened this far into the show because it was absolutely.
They definitely will. They always do.
They do.
Well, Brad,
absolutely intentional.
As Brad told me. Sometimes he's catching up on the podcast, and so he said it was really rough to listen to the previous week's podcast knowing we lost to UW, and I'm like, that is your fault. Like,
yeah, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, hearing us be like, yeah, we should definitely beat this team, and then
but sometimes, sometimes I just like to poke a little fun at some of the other content creators that are out there in the Cougar universe, and that was one of those times.
I will say I got shout out to Coug Store, love Coug Store.
Yeah.
But I got a shirt for B, that says Coug fan. So I don't know what I'm teaching her. I don't know if I'm teaching her the right things. But the words are separated. But I want her to be a WSU Cougar fan,
Yes.
of course. But it kind of made me laugh. I don't think Amanda quite thought it was as funny as I did.
Probably not.
Yeah, she might not know the politics there, but I definitely love people at Coug fan, for sure, Jamie and everyone. But
we can
so
tease.
we're kidding. Yeah, we're teasing.
Tease. We can tease occasionally. It's okay.
Yeah. I will say Jamie has in his Twitter bio, it says #PVE, which I don't think means our podcast. I think it's some gamer thing, but I like to think that he's like #PVE.
Big fan. Big fan of the
big
show.
fan.
Jamie.
I'm a big fan of Jamie, by the way. Also,
He's a good dude.
Jamie and I have had some late night Zoom beers before.
Jamie's a good dude,
so
man.
I like that kid.
Yeah.
He's not really a kid anymore, but
he's a kid to you.
He's
and
younger
me.
than me, so he's a kid.
He's a kid to you and me.
But yeah, we're dude,
all right.
Jesus.
We're gonna have to compress everything else.
We got.
five
because the
more
women's hoops, man, they got so
Yeah.
much to talk about. So hold on, let me pull up.
We're not doing a fucking
let me-
commercial break, so let's just forget that.
No, because I want to use the bumper.
Oh shit! All right, go for it.
All right, we're gonna take a break. Hold on. And we're back. Got bumper music now. Take as SB Nation asked us to take a break every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We are nearly 2 hours of this thing. Briefly on the beer I'm drinking.
Yeah.
Are you drinking a beer, Jeff?
I am. Just real quick, I had the Astral Projection DIPA that you gave me, which was, it's gone now, but it was absolutely spectacular. So, Holy Mountain. Can never go wrong, Holy Mountain.
Funny, one of the first beers I ever had from Holy Mountain at Collins Pub, which is where I discovered Holy Mountain, was Collins Pub. Going to a Sounders game, and then I started going to Holy Mountain. But Astral Projection, but then they totally changed it to make it this big hazy, buddy. And it's still delicious.
It's fantastic.
Definitely a different beer, very orange juice beer. I would say it's very much like a drunk orange juice.
Well, and what's funny is, so I followed it up, by the way. I'm having a Rubens PNW Crush right now, which is also hazy, but far less hazy in comparison to that one. So,
Astral is just. It's a completely opaque.
Yes.
You cannot see anything.
Absolutely,
through that.
It's fantastic. So thank you.
I think I drank my last one. Yeah, you're welcome, man. I don't want to take down all 4-pack of an 8%, so I donate them to my friends.
Understood.
I am having. I tried to look one for tie-in to the injury, so I am having, or it's gone now because we are an hour and 45. I've drank the 500 milliliter bottle of Reaction State from Bottle Logic. It is a barrel-aged maple breakfast stout, aged in maple syrup and cinnamon whiskey barrels with cacao nibs, coffee, lactose, cinnamon, and Madagascar vanilla. Very delicious. I had an earlier version of this beer when I was at the brewery in 2016. Was not impressed with it that much. I'm typically don't really like the maple syrup barrel aged beers, but this one, maybe it's because I've given it a couple years from when it was bottled. I think I picked this up actually in Phoenix. When I was there for, apparently they distribute to Phoenix. I went to a beer bar there, and they had some beer to go, and I bought for the Cheez-It Bowl. So it's got a Coug connection as well. And Reaction State, my reactions to things. I'm currently in this state of disrepair because of the way I react to things. But yeah, so Bottle Logic. They make great barrel-aged shit. Jeff, you know that. It's expensive.
Yes,
it's delicious.
It's tasty.
I got a couple more ones down there that I've picked up that I hope I can. Oh, I got another Dark Star November, by the way. Very delicious beer.
Ooh, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, so beer. But anyways, let's talk about the women's hoops team. Not the most ideal of weekends because they definitely beat the team that they absolutely should have beaten in Utah.
But Craig, I was told that the game against Colorado was a must-win.
Yes,
for their tournament chances.
Must win.
A must-win.
It was a must-win.
It was not a must-win.
But they didn't win it.
The joke is that it's not really a must-win because nobody really knows which games you have to win. It's a moving target.
But we could say if WSU would have won these last 3 games, they probably wouldn't have mattered what they did in the Pac-12 tournament, whatever. So now they just have more work to do.
Yeah.
That Colorado game was frustrating for sure. It's just they just couldn't get over the hump. Turnovers. Crystal just couldn't hit a shot. Charlize had to, kind of try to do her thing and save them. But Bella had a rough game. I think she was 0 for, she had 1 point, 0 for 2, something like that. Total non-factor. That was a bummer. Just like a low of lows. Real bummer on Friday. They came back and whipped up on Utah, which is what they should do. Which is good. Charlize, another 22 points. She didn't get the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week, probably just because they're tired of giving it to her, because the girl that got it is not, didn't have stats better than what Charlize did. But I will say Crystal looked a lot better against Utah. 11 assists, much more selective with her shot. Hit a 3 finally. I think she had missed over 10 in a row. An FA level streak. And then I don't know. I will say if you haven't watched this team much, they got one more regular season game and hopefully some Pac-12 games because they might need them. But Charlize Leger-Walker is one of my most one of the most entertaining WSU athletes I've ever watched. She's incredible. And this team just in general is fun to watch, and they're fun to root for, and they play really hard. They've had some really bad luck. I still think, if Sherilyn Molina had not gotten hurt, they'd have a couple more wins right now and be sitting pretty, or not gotten hurt. They said she was hurt at first, and now they say it's personal reasons, but I don't know what's going on there. I hope everything's okay with her. But yeah, if she was here, I think they'd be in good shape. But right now, they got to be UW this weekend, and from there, I will say, Jeff, that one is a must-win.
Yeah, I mean,
because UW isn't very good. They can't lose that game.
You obviously want to avoid bad losses right now, so there's no doubt about that. Okay, so what if they? That was
a fight. We usually preview the next weekend of men's games, and we didn't.
Yeah,
and we don't have time to.
Yeah, look, Arizona, we almost beat them. They rebound really, really well. That's kind of the
Arizona
big
State.
thing.
We're going to play twice.
Arizona State, we're going to play twice. They kind of suck. We should win one of those games. It sucks that we have to play them both in Tempe. It's actually fucking stupid that we have to play twice in Tempe, because Arizona State's the one that had the COVID problem. And so now Arizona State's going to end up with 10
It's an extra home game.
10 home games and 7 road games versus 7 home games and 10 road games for us, or whatever it is. So it's absolutely ridiculous, but whatever. We should win at least one of those games against Arizona State. Arizona, that's going to be tough, but we as we've already seen this year, we match up well with them.
Pretty well.
We match up well with them. Who knows if Bonton's going to be back? I don't know.
Hope so.
We do know that Bonton's probably not going to be back next year, which we don't have time to talk about this week, but seems pretty clear that he's gone, so we could talk about those implications.
Yeah, back
next week. Back to the women.
They got to beat UW. They should beat UW. They've already beaten them. UW's not very good. UW has gotten some good wins. They're not untalented, but WSU should beat them even without Sherilyn.
Yep.
I was encouraged. Bella played a lot better against Utah.
Yeah, that was so great because
that was huge.
They really needed her to neutralize who was it, Hollingshed for Colorado,
and she didn't.
Really needed her to neutralize that player, and she just could not. which was such a bummer. Hollingshed basically, for what Noah did, now Hollingshed didn't score 40, but she scored, I think, 24, 26, something like that. And also had 12 or 13 rebounds. She was a monster in that game for Colorado. So, and Bella, you had mentioned to me, that because I'm not quite as able to follow them as closely as you are. You'd mentioned that Bella had been in quite of a funk for a little while. So super great to see her come back and have a really nice game against Utah, because frankly, they need her. They don't have anybody else on the roster that has that kind of length. She can be a real
they have
maker.
Nankervis, but Nankervis is not quite as athletic and not quite as dynamic as Bella, not quite as skilled offensively, and then just not quite the shot blocker defensively. She doesn't, she definitely has made some nice contributions, but it's a step down, especially when Bella is playing at her best.
Yep.
Quite a step down from Bella to Nankervis.
Yep, seems like it. So really, really nice to see her have a good game against Utah. I mean, that game really was out of hand. The scoring margin was actually closer than what the game really was. Basically they were running.
Yeah, it was like 26-11 in the first quarter.
I want to say early in the fourth quarter, I think it was up to 22 or 24 points, something like that.
Yeah, I think Charlize and Michaela Jones hit back-to-back threes and made it like 64-42. And it was just kind of, they were kind of coasting to the finish line at that point.
Yep. So, go beat the piss out of Washington. That'd be great. And then, whatever happens in the tournament happens in the tournament. Typically, and again, we talk about these things in terms of the committee. Typically, the committee seems to kind of give you more credit for nice wins in a conference tournament than they do for bad losses. In a conference tournament, I think there's a bit of an understanding that conference tournaments are a bit of a weird deal. So, but, again, if you lose to Washington, does that necessarily destroy you? What if you go win 2 games in the conference tournament? It's just, I get really annoyed. This is just this is probably more a problem with me than anybody else. It's just kind of a personality thing, but it's man, I get annoyed when people say stuff in definitive terms that are not definitive. It's like, oh, they have to win this game. It's well, no, they don't. They really don't. It'd be one thing if they were considered sort of the last, one of the last 4 in, but they weren't before that game against Colorado. And, you lose to Colorado, and Colorado is kind of a fringy NCAA tournament team. They could definitely play themselves into the tournament still. And, so you lose to them in a close game, and then you go beat the piss out of Utah. And it's you were generally considered to be like a 9-ish seed before that. I mean, that means there's, anywhere between, 6 and 8 teams between you and the bottom of the field. That's a lot, so I don't know, man. They'll be all right. Yeah. They beat Washington. They'll be fine.
They'll likely play Arizona State in the first round, who they should beat. And then in the second round, they should get, they'll get one of the top 4 teams. So they have a chance for, hopefully, the problem is they're probably going to be on the 8-9 line.
Yes.
So that second game,
of course,
the second game is going to be against Stanford.
Yeah. What? Maybe lose to Washington, or maybe beat Washington and then lose in the first round, and then maybe you get down to a 10 or 11 line. I'd rather be there.
Well, I know. They'll be on the 8-9. That means they'll play Arizona State because they have the top 4 get buys.
Yeah.
Top 4 get buys, but they don't reseed in the second so I think they line up. Well, I guess the 5-12 goes to the 1, or I can't remember how it works.
I don't
know. So hopefully they don't get Stanford, because Arizona, UCLA, Oregon. They've beaten Arizona. They've beaten UCLA.
Yep.
They've been close against Oregon. Those are all teams they could potentially beat, and then would all be good wins.
Yep.
Just the worst would be, winning that first round and then getting Stanford in second. And obviously, we'll talk more about this when that bracket is set next week. And but just go beat UW. For many reasons.
Yeah, they're in fine shape. beating Washington. Everything's, they're still in really good shape. They beat Washington, and it's tough to say for sure because there's not quite the cottage industry of bracketology the way there is in the men's side.
Yeah, like we're not even getting an update from Charlie Cream until tomorrow.
Charlie Cream apparently only updates his bracket once a week, which is I demand more
Joe
frequent
Lenardi
updates
is
than
like
that.
every damn game, it seems.
Yeah, like every
updates it.
game he shifts things around.
And then there's not,
Charlie Cream
with
just
the
takes
men's
the damn week off. What are you doing, man?
with the men's tournament, there's like 1,000 ones, and you have bracket matrix, which like brings them all together, and then so you can see because like Lenardi's not perfect, but the other guys aren't perfect. Daubertine's not perfect, whatever, and so so I mean it's in front of them. They can still do it. They got to win this one, and I will confidently.
Yep.
Well, yeah. I again, it's not absolute, but man, you should win this one. And do that, and then see what happens in the tournament or the conference tournament. Make to the NCAA tournament.
I'll bet if they win this one, they're comfortably in no matter what happens in the Pac-12 tournament. That's just my guess.
All right, we'll see what Charlie Cream has to say tomorrow morning at probably about 7 in the morning.
Soccer beat the shit out of somebody else. Eastern?
Soccer beat
Idaho.
Idaho. Yeah, I think Elise Bennett is on. I don't know if you watch the highlights. She is having a blessed goal season. So a great goal against Seattle U, but pretty sure her goal, like she is 3 for 3 in goals per game right now. Three goals, 3 games. I am pretty sure her goal against Eastern was supposed to be a cross and hit the post and went in. And then I'm pretty sure her goal against Idaho was an own goal by the goalie, but whatever.
Whatever, man.
Like, it's one of those things where it bounced off the post and then hit the goalie and went in. Whatever.
Whatever.
But hey, she's 3 for 3. I think Alyssa Gray had another goal. So we got young attackers scoring. From what I gather from just kind of the tweets and whatever, they pretty much dominated that game, and it should have been even worse than 3-0. It sucks that they're playing in the bubble. We can't watch, but they're up to number 15 ranked now. So
super sucks. It's so sucky.
Yeah, I know.
Both of us love soccer
soccer.
so much. I know. But whatever.
It's hard to get to know the players and what they're good at and what they do. Yeah. You can't watch a game, but yeah, soccer. I think volleyball. I was kind of bummed. I thought they could take at least one from Stanford. They didn't get a chance. Stanford had COVID stuff. Their stuff's stricter than everyone else. It's harder, but they had a COVID breakout anyway, and that got canceled. So no volleyball this weekend. But yeah, that's all. So. Again, over 2 hours. If you're still here, and you have not subscribed, again, subscribe.
Yeah,
if
what's
you're
wrong
still
with
here
you?
and you have subscribed, rate us 5 stars. I want to read the ratings and stuff, but honestly, we're just too long on our recordings. We love hoops. What can we say? Particularly the men's hoops team.
We will not apologize. No regrets.
At the Craig Powers, if you want to see a picture of me in crutches and a boot. Thank you to Noah Williams for responding to that tweet. Made my day. And then at Pod versus Everyone, if you want to see Jeff's rantings on everything. Anything and everything.
I'm trying to dial it back, man. I'm trying to dial it back.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I'll never call you self-made, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
But yeah, Jeff, don't cut out the broadcast right away because I'm going to play the 20-second version at the end. But anyways, go Cougs.
Go Cougs. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.